cast in the name of God, ye not guilty.
My name is Penguin Truth. I perform a much-needed job here in this city of Otaku. It's time for more Otaku Evolution. Be sure to like, subscribe, and contribute to my Patreon. Well, it was long past due time to get back to the Rivet robots, and it's time we talk about the most mysterious of the shows, Kazuyoshi Katayama and Chiaki J Konaka's The Big O. It's kind of odd that I hadn't gotten to it until now. I've had the title card ready since 2015. Not kidding. Big O started out basically as a planned toy line, and the project to make it a series was given to Katayama after the basic designs were done by Keiichi Sato. Konaka was brought on to write. The show premiered on the satellite channel WoW WoW with its first 13-episode season. The second season was co-produced by Cartoon Network because of its popularity in the US. A third season never materialized because of middling ratings and a desire of Cartoon Network to put money behind other projects. Rumor has it was the Adult Swim crew's preference for the comedic stylings of Tim and Eric that caused them to snub the possibility of a third season of Big O. I can't really speak to that as far as its validity, but I will say that even the worst parts of Season 2 are exponentially more entertaining than Tim and Eric have ever been. Big O takes place in Paradigm City, basically New York City by way of Gotham City. 40 years prior to the story, everybody in Paradigm lost their memories. The city is controlled by the Paradigm Corporation, run by the enigmatic Alex Rosewater. The main character of the show is Paradigm City's top negotiator, Roger Smith, who through circumstances meets an android named R. Dorothy Wainwright. When negotiations get out of hand, Roger is forced to deploy his megadeus robot, the titular Big O, with its piston-powered punches and various other weapons. Hijinks ensue. Because Big O is half a mecha show and half a mystery show, the show takes the opportunity to make the existence of the mecha part of the mystery. Whatever happened to the world inside and outside of Paradigm, an outside world which no longer exists, the powerful megadeuses, megadei? The giant robots had something to do with it. And the reason they exist in the present is that some were left over from the catastrophe that occurred, and some have been built new from memories retrieved from beforehand. So there are all kinds of megadeuses. Roger has to fight his way through a bunch of these things, though usually one at a time in a Monster of the Week formula, while the overall mystery of the show is explored and bits and pieces of the puzzle are revealed. But let's talk briefly about the characters of Big O, because besides the robots and the underlying mystery, they're also an important element of the show. Roger Smith is kind of a consummate professional, with certain rules to his business and values, He takes on his jobs with a tenacity that goes beyond the call of duty and has an abiding respect for women and the elderly. He can come across a little distant at times, but beneath his confident exterior, there is room for a little warmth and sentimentality.
This woman, who calls herself an angel, is looking for memories to make money. But for people like us who have lost all memory of the past, do these memories have any value or any meaning? Are they worth the time and any money spent at all? Do you think it's possible that maybe living is not caring about appearances?
So you can say sweet things, can't you?
Our Dorothy Wainwright is an android built by Dr. Timothy Wainwright and Miguel Saldano to resemble the former's deceased daughter. She initially synchronizes with her sister, a megadeus called Dorothy 2, and is even installed in its head to keep it working at one point. After it's dispatched, Dorothy comes to live with Roger Smith as one of his housekeepers. Normally very dour and reticent, bits of Dorothy's humanity, such as her sarcasm and an understated affection, come close to the surface on occasion.
Roger, I want to show you my appreciation and give you a present as well. I would like to do what everyone else does.
Dorothy. Well then, this is from me.
Thank you, Roger.
A woman who calls herself Angel is one of my favorite characters. She is a mysterious person whose true allegiance is always in question, like Fujiko Mine. She's ostensibly after memories, which marks her as an outsider in Paradigm, since most people are just fine, or at least not worked up about, retrieving memories from over 40 years ago. She has a lot of chemistry with Roger, the two of them teaming up frequently, though his trust for her wavers. Most fans seem to be Roger/Dorothy shippers, but I'm a firm Roger/Angel shipper, though I respect the canon couple. There's just something about a gorgeous blonde question mark, a little broken but very capable, that gets me revved up.
Don't get the wrong idea. Wainwright's client was only...
Someone like you? Someone who comes from a place other than Paradigm City? Is that what you were going to say?
I'm like you, a human being. It doesn't really matter where I was born or where I am now. I act entirely of my own free will.
You're free? Right.
Dan Dawson is a major and later a colonel, and Paradigm's military police who keep law and order in the city on behalf of the Paradigm Corporation. He's a hard-nosed guy with a great tenacity. He starts out very by-the-book and disdainful of Big O's interfering in police business, but later comes to accept its place in the city and his own limitations. In some ways, he becomes torn between his duty as a member of the police force and his personal sense of justice, which sometimes conflicts with orders. He can be hard-headed, but ultimately he's a good friend to Roger and a good man overall.
This city is like a stage.
Huh?
And we're actors who've been placed on that stage. Actors who aren't even told what the plot is or what's gonna happen next.
But why?
To keep some of your sanity.
Norman Berg is Roger's butler. He may not be as close to Roger as, say, Alfred Pennyworth is to Bruce Wayne. He didn't raise him or anything, but they have a deep respect for each other. Norman is also responsible for Big O and the Griffin car's upkeep. For some reason, he just knows how to repair Big O, despite not knowing how he knows. He may be a servant, but the man is no pushover.
Please stand back, ma'am. Leave this up to me.
Let's look at some of the antagonists of the Big O. There are an interesting bunch of characters that stand in Roger's way from negotiating and resolving problems. First up, let's talk about Jason Beck. Beck is the first villain in the series, and he becomes a continuing thorn in Roger's side. He's actually pretty damn ingenuitive and clever, but he always fails in his follow-through, from which the show derives some of its humor. He sees himself as this great nemesis of Roger, but Roger mostly sees him as an irritating nuisance.
I've promised to make a more effective and appealing presentation to the Paradigm Corporation that your superb technology ultimately deserves. The arrangements for that presentation are almost ready.
The man formerly known as Michael Sabak, Schwarzwald is a dangerously unhinged seeker of the truth. He wishes to uncover the hidden truth behind Paradigm and the lost memories, but the way he goes about it usually involves a lot of property destruction and death. He nearly kills Roger in his own megadeus called Big Duo, which can fly. And even after he disappears from the show, his influence remains. He's probably my favorite of the antagonists, and one of my favorite characters, because of his outrageous appearance and dedication to unraveling the mysteries of the city. Though when you look at some of the crazy conspiracies Chiaki Konaka believes in, Schwarzwald seems completely rational.
That rosewater is a real piece of work.
You know, I just handed over your severance pay. It was entirely your choice to burn it.
No, it's this corrupt city that will burn.
The main antagonist of Big O ends up being the head of the Paradigm Corporation, Alex Rosewater, who only makes token appearances in the first season, but appears in several episodes in the second. At first, it's not entirely clear what the smirking executive is thinking, but in the second season, he's constantly showing up to display what a pompous dickhead he is. It's actually a little ridiculous how often they show him. It kind of takes away some of his mystique. Apparently, what he wants the most is to have a big of his own to lord it over everyone in Paradigm. Pretty petty if you ask me, but that's a CEO for you. I think that ultimately, he's only a slightly more competent Beck. He becomes a real man-child after a while, and I think it might be one of the problems with Season 2. But I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Alex Rosewater's right-hand goon, the Boogeyman! Crispin Freeman. Alan Gabriel. Alan Gabriel is part machine, part man, and all sadist. He does a lot of Rosewater's dirty work, and even though he works for the foreigners in the Union, he plays both sides to see what kind of pleasures he can derive from the kind of skullduggery and assassinating he's given as jobs. He's a guy you love to hate. The perfect deadly extension of Rosewater's childish whims. You'll come to ache for the comeuppance he richly deserves.
You damn puppet.
But now that we've talked a bit about the characters of Big O, it's time to decipher the mysteries of the show. The next section is for people who've already watched both seasons, so if you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead to the conclusion of the video. There are a lot of fan ideas and theories as to what the deal is with Paradigm City. Most of us fans seem to agree it's some kind of virtual reality or something of the sort being played out on a grand stage. The finale of the series bears this out, as it shows the reality that Paradigm is a part of blinking out of existence, only to reset itself to the beginning of the series with a slight difference. Back around the time the finale of Big O aired on Cartoon Network, there were a lot of competing theories as to the subtleties of this overall impression of the secret of Paradigm. I personally subscribed to a theory espoused by a guy who did a whole theory page on the subject. I think their name might be Patrick Smith, based on some of the information I've looked up. And their theory on Paradigm City? I call it the fake it till you make it theory.
How could this be possible? There's no way that something like that could exist above Paradigm City. Huh? What is that?
Memories. They're found within people. And if they come in any other form, they're nothing but fakes.
Essentially, the theory explains the city of Paradigm as a virtual reality that becomes more real with every iteration. After a period of time, each version of Paradigm resets and becomes a new city, but it becomes increasingly difficult to erase the previous version, thus the lingering memories and the buildings and technology left over from the previous paradigm. The key scene in this theory is the one where Roger visits Alex's father, Gordon Rosewater, for the first time in episode 13, the first season finale.
Why would something like this be necessary?
These tomatoes are reproduced synthetically with only the memories of the sweet, flavorful original. If we keep repeating the process, this fruit will eventually become the real thing.
In the fake it till you make it theory, this scene doesn't just explain that the actual tomatoes or the orphans implanted with fake memories will eventually become the real thing, but that Paradigm City itself goes through this process as well. We see in episode 14, and later in episode 22, that in a previous version of Paradigm, Roger Smith was a soldier who piloted a Big O unit in a great conflict involving many megadeuses. At some point, he took a job negotiating on behalf of Gordon Rosewater with the creator of the world, or its representative. What Angel represents in this process must be some kind of cue for the city to reset and transform into its next iteration. But as she has become a personality in her own right, at the end of the second season, she decides to make over Paradigm to be near identical to the one that we've been watching most of this time. Now, granted, this theory doesn't perfectly explain everything. I'm still a little fuzzy on the existence of the foreigners in the Union, the reason androids exist at all, and a few other things. But of all the theories I've read or heard about, this one makes the most sense. If Konaka intended this as the truth, it's actually really clever. But let's face it, Konaka and company didn't make anything abundantly clear at the end. Maybe a third season was supposed to resolve the lingering mysteries, or maybe it would have made it even more complicated with brand new ones. I guess we'll never know. All I know is that for the most part, The Big O is a solid anime television series. It has a great atmosphere, some cool looking and cool moving giant mecha, mysteries to sink your teeth into, and some excellent characters. The second season is definitely a bit different from the first, for better or worse, and I feel like Roger and Dorothy, for all their setup of a relationship, don't spend enough time together, but I'm glad to have the show in my collection.
Seems like the tables have turned.
Next time on Otaku Evolution, it's time to take another trip to the doctor. I hope my insurance will cover it. Until then, see ya!
These tomatoes are reproduced synthetically with only the memories of the sweet, flavorful original. If we keep repeating the process, this fruit will eventually become the real thing.
Sometimes I feel so all alone, finding myself calling your name.
When we apart, so far away.